You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to the Full Count MLB Podcast, your Niagara source for all trending topics, analysis, postseason odds, and player movement from Major League Baseball. Here are your hosts, Brandon Caputo and Treigh Patterson.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another installment of the Full Count MLB Podcast, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your July 31st, 2020 edition, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod. Like us on Facebook by searching the Armchair GM's Network, as well on Instagram. Give us a follow over there, Armchair GM Sports Network. Listen to us live. Usually we are offline today on Spreaker.com by searching the Armchair GMs, as well Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer. So please give us a like and a subscription on all those platforms if you have those also. And check out our website, armchairgmsports.com. All of our podcasts, articles, sponsors, contributors, everything you need to know about the Armchair GMs is on that website for you. Very easy to navigate. And as always, I'm one of your hosts of the Full Count MLB Podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Capoots13 with a Canadian Z. And I'm always pleased to be joined on the baseball portion of the network by my co-host, Treigh Patterson. You can follow him on Twitter at Treigh Patterson. Treigh, it's been a long time since we did a baseball episode, and there's been a lot going on in the MLB, but I'm happy to be back. At least they give us some stuff to talk about. We've got the start of the regular season and the chase for the 60-game regular season, the chase for the postseason, and all the coronavirus news, the Joe Kelly news, there's a lot of news to talk about, Treigh, and I'm glad we're here back to talk about it with our listeners here.
Oh, it's been too long, but it feels great to be back, that's for sure. I don't know how much longer we'll be able to talk about it, but for the time being, it's great to be back.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get shut down, just like the MLB is going to get shut down, but for the time being, it's good to have baseball back. I know Treigh and myself being big baseball junkies, it's been a breath of fresh air to just have some professional sports back and playing. I know the NHL starting back up with their preseason as well, but with baseball starting back up a few weeks ago now, it's been nice, although we've had a lot of the teams there's been games postponed and team activities have been shut down because of the coronavirus and the travel. Treigh, do you think Major League Baseball, and before we get into the show today, just a little bit of discussion here, Treigh, what do you think that Major League Baseball, do you think that they've done a good job with the protocols and with their strategy of how they went about going about the season, with the teams still traveling to all the cities, not allowing fans into the arenas, but unlike a lot of the other major sports that are going to have hub cities, do you think Major League Baseball, do you think they should be credited, or do you think that there's a lot that they could have done better with this, the whole return to play format and the 60-game schedule after all of the negotiation issues that happened over the summer?
Oh, well, just first off, they deserve no credit for the way this was handled prior to the season started. The back and forth bickering between the owners and the players and Rob Manfred, it was a total mess. And I think pretty much everybody thought there just wasn't going to be a baseball season. As for their actual procedures on the field, I think you have to give them some credit. With the no fans, obviously that's a step that most sporting events are taking now, especially in the North America region. But as far as the testing every day, and then it didn't really feel like they had a plan for when the outbreak happened with the Marlins, but what they're doing with the postponements and not just overreacting and canceling the season, I do think they deserve some credit for that.
Yeah, the only thing that I have to say is those cardboard cutouts have got to be the creepiest things that I've ever had to witness during a baseball game. I don't know how those pitchers are able to pay attention, but especially the Dodgers, they got some ragtag pictures of some people up there, and I can't even focus on the game half the time with those cardboard cutouts. But I will say that they're doing a pretty good job with the walk-up music still. The fake crowd noise seems like they're doing a pretty good job with that, giving the right reactions whenever a base hit or a strikeout happens. happens or anything like that. So it seems like, there's no fans in the arena, and I'm sure it's different for the players, but they're trying to give it the most realistic atmosphere possible, and I got to give them credit for that.
Oh yeah, the simulated crowd noise. Obviously it's not going to be 100% accurate. If a pitcher throws high and tight on somebody, you're not going to get the oohs or the ahs that you would normally get. But if a player laces a single into left field, you're going to get that initial reaction cheer, which does, as when you're watching from home, it gives you a sense of normalcy when watching the game. And then I'm not sure either if you're able to see, but games that are broadcasted nationally on Fox in the U.S., they have the simulated virtual crowd. So if a ball is hit if a home run's hit, they use a virtual computer simulated crowd in the outfield seat. So it makes it look like there's actual fans there.
That's interesting. Yeah, we don't get that up here in Canada. That's why we got you here for your insight to Major League Baseball down there, America's favorite pastime, right, Treigh?
Yeah, maybe about 50 years ago.
But anyways, let's discuss what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over the new playoff format that was announced by the MLB, the extended teams, obviously the shortened season with the 60-game schedule. We're going to go over the World Series betting odds. We're going to look into the standings so far, and Treigh's just going to quickly talk about his article, and we'll plug that right now. His article is up on armchairgmsports.com right now. He gives his predictions on the MLB season and how it's going to play out. And again, that article was done before the MLB decided to screw up Treigh's article and extend the playoff teams to 16. So it's still a great read. Go and check that out. But with that being said, Treigh, let's jump right into this new playoff format and what the MLB announced back on July 23rd. Again, I'm referencing MLB.com's Anthony Stravins on this. So the 16-team extended postseason. The extended postseason teams is going to be 16 now. So, Treigh, what are your thoughts on that, about just the added teams, the 8 from the American League and 8 from the National League? We had been getting talks, and we have had more teams kind of, slowly get put into the playoffs with the added wild card game and everything like that. So, are you a fan of adding more teams into the postseason in the MLB, or are you the traditional, let's keep it at what it is, and let's, the reason why MLB baseball has been so great over the years?
I would view myself more as a traditionalist when it comes to baseball. Like, I'm a fan of the no DH in the National League, but when it comes to the expanded playoffs, I really love this move. You look at the other professional sports leagues, and they all have around 16 teams to 14, that range of teams making the playoffs for their league. Meanwhile, in baseball, it's only 10, or normally it's only 10, or 8. I think it used to be 8, and then they expanded to 10, and now 16 this year. I love the move. In a 60-game season, it's hard to actually know where your team's going to be after 60 games. I mean, in the article I wrote, I referenced that after 60 games last year, the Nationals, I think they were 8 games under 500, something like that. So I think expanding the playoffs, at least for this season, is a great move. I think maybe doing something along the lines of expanding it to maybe somewhere around 12 in the future during a normal season would be better, just to get rid of that one-game playoff. I am not a fan of the one-game playoff at all. And that's the one thing I absolutely love about this new playoff format, is that you're going to have all 3-game series for the first round. Nobody gets a bye, and nobody's going to be stuck in that one-game playoff where if your starting pitcher just has an off night, then, oh well, you're SOL.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a couple more teams in the postseason. I don't necessarily know if they need 16 teams every year, but like you said, with the circumstances this year, for baseball, 60 games is not a lot. 162, I mean, they're missing basically 102 games from their regular season play in any other season. So I think that would basically be like the equivalent of the NHL playing like a 20-game season, if that. So yeah. It's hard to gauge on something like that. So I'm all for the MLB having an extended postseason this year, and I think it'll be interesting. They're going to have basically like an old NHL type of format where the number 1 seed faces the number 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. So I really think that's going to be interesting. The best of 3 will begin in the wild card series, and then all games at the higher seeds home ballpark. So I think that'll be interesting as well. So it'll be best of 3, and all the games will be played by the higher seed at home. So, I mean, whatever I guess you consider the home field advantage this year, I mean, there's no fans, but I guess the home ballparks do help, what the dimensions are like and everything like that. So I guess you do have an advantage in that sense as well.
Well, when you want to talk about, I guess it doesn't apply to the postseason. I was going to say the new extra inning rule where you start a runner on second, but I don't think that rule will follow into the postseason, so never mind. Because the home team does have an advantage on that rule, because if the away team happens to not score in their half of the inning, the home team can then bunt the runner from second over to third, win on a sac fly.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's for the first round. The divisional series will then begin with a best-of-5 traditional 2-2-1 home and road format, and the winner of 1-8 versus winner of 4-5, winner of 2-7 versus the winner of 3-6, and the home field advantage goes to the higher seed. Then we get to the championship series in the NL and the AL. It's a best-of-7 with traditional 2-3-2 home road format, and the home field advantage goes to the higher seed, obviously. And then the World Series, the best-of-7 once again, traditional 2-3-2, AL versus NL, home field advantage goes to the team with the superior regular season record. So unlike, I'm actually glad that the MLB put this rule in many years ago, or a few years back, where the All-Star game isn't actually for home field anymore, and it actually just goes to the higher seed. I'm okay with that, although it did give the the All-Star game in the MLB a little bit more added juice compared to some of the other leagues. But Treigh, so it goes best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, best of 7 for the 4 playoff rounds. What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. Aside from the new first round, wild card round, doesn't seem to be too much of a change. But considering the circumstances this year and just how wacky everything is, I think this was a really good alternate plan that the MLB came up with in terms of the playoffs. I'm still not a fan of the 2-3-2 that the MLB uses. I prefer more of the 2-2-1-1-1 format, but that's just nitpicking at this point.
Yeah, and then we go into the updated expanded postseason. So 8 teams per league, 3 division winners, 3 second place teams, and 2 wild card teams. So just in general, what are your thoughts on the whole playoff format? Are you going to be excited for it? Do you think that there might be some sleeper teams that sneak into the playoffs, or teams that, really going into the season didn't think that they had a real shot at all at making the playoffs, and now with the extended format, maybe they have a little bit of added juice and added motivation to say, hey, with this extended format, we have an opportunity here this year to really do something as an underdog and a team that might not be one of the powerhouses in the AL or the NL, but because of all the uncertainty and everybody's still trying to get back up to speed, it seems like it's kind of a wide open year at this point.
Yeah, I think with the new expansion, there's the possibility you could see some 500 teams, maybe even teams that are slightly under 500, make the postseason. And in the article, I referenced a couple sleeper teams that I thought might just barely miss out on the playoffs. Well, with this new format, they'll make the playoffs now. Even if they don't play as well as or as full to their potential as they possibly can. Teams like the Reds, I think in the article I had them winning the National League Central, but they're off to a pretty slow start. I mean, things can obviously change, but with this expanded postseason, even if they don't win their division, they can finish third in their division and still be the first wild card team with the way everything's set up now. But yeah, teams like the Reds, teams like the Mets, the Padres are off to a great start, but then you have teams like the Diamondbacks, and that's in the National League, and the American League. You have the Yankees and the Rays who are going to be battling it out for the division title, but whichever team comes in second, it's going to be one of those teams. They're still going to make the playoffs guaranteed, which is something I referenced in the article. I thought the Rays had a tougher schedule just playing in the Eastern divisions. So I did not have them making the playoffs in the original playoff format. I had them finishing in second and just outside of the wild card standings. But now with the new format, just finishing in second, no matter what your record is, will get you in.
Yeah, and it's and that's going to be a tight race there in the AL East with the Blue Jays and the Red Sox also trying to get back up to where they are and competitively in the AL East. So it gives a lot more teams a lot more hope, I think. And looking at the MLB standings so far this year, I mean, every team has at least 2 wins except for the Phillies because they've only played 3 games. All the rest of their games have so far been postponed. But regardless of that, everybody else has at least had 2 wins. But again, the records are the games played are kind of a little bit sporadic. Some teams have only played like 3 games, some have played up to 7. But it seems like so far there's been a lot of parity in the league so far, and there really hasn't been a team that has just been getting blown out every single game. It's at least been competitive, or they get blown out in the first game and then you see them come back and win the second game. So it seems like so far this year, through the first week or two, it's actually been pretty competitive pretty much all around the MLB.
Yeah, there hasn't really been a team that you've been able to see just kind of distance themselves from the rest of the pack just yet. I mean, it is early. I think the most that any team's played is 7 games. But even teams like the Dodgers, they lost a couple. What was it, to the Giants? I think was their first series that they played. I think they lost 2 to the Giants, which I don't think anybody expected to happen. The Marlins, they were off to a great start against the Phillies. Then obviously the whole COVID situation happened with them. It'll be interesting to see how they respond, how many players they lose from that starting rotation, because the Miami Marlins, they might be able to come out and surprise some people. The Braves played a couple exhibition games with them before the season started, and they looked pretty good. They had some real ball players on that team.
Yeah.
And then the Cubs, I think, in the National League are probably one of the biggest surprises. I did not expect them to come out, and I think they won, was it 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 against the Reds. Didn't see that coming either. I thought they were going to be lacking on pitching, but so far their pitching has probably been some of the best pitching that we've seen in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the Marlins. It just sucks that they've obviously been shut down and haven't been able to play games. It seems like for a whole week now. They've only played 3 games, 2-1 so far. The Cubs that you mentioned, they're 4-2, leading the Central. And the Rockies are surprisingly leading the NL West over there at 4-1, but with 2 other teams, the Dodgers and the Padres, being at 5-2. So there's a lot of interesting storylines so far. 2 weeks into the season, you go over to the AL. The AL West is pretty much wide open at this point. The Astros and the Athletics are tied at 3-3. The Angels are worst in the division at 2-5, and they're only a game and a half back of leading the division. Then you have the Indians at 5-2 in the Central, and in the AL East, the Yankees are 4-1 after their 9th inning heroics from Aaron Judge last night, beating the Orioles in the comeback fashion. So the Rays sitting there at 4-3, but it just like you said, no team has really separated themselves yet in the good or bad way. I mean, I know that the Angels and the Diamondbacks are both 2-5, but you know what? They're still in it, especially with this extended playoff format. You can't even really sit there and say if they're not close to the top that they're not going to make it. There's so much more opportunity this year than maybe they would have expected in previous years, where a sub 500 team is going to be able to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, I think, is that you're really never out of it. It seems like in this extended playoff format. The Angels, like you said, as an example, they're 2-5, but they have all the makings of a team that can go on a quick 5-game win streak. And they keep saying that 1 win is equivalent to 2.7 wins in a regular season. If they win 5 in a row, that's almost that's 13 wins in a normal season. So I mean, anything is possible in this season. You're only going to be playing the West or the Central, the teams that you're accustomed to seeing the most. So these guys, they've all seen each other. They know what to expect. And I don't think there's a single team except for maybe Baltimore in the AL East that you can just count out.
Good old Baltimore. I hope the Yankees can play the Orioles more in these makeshift series when all these other teams are getting shut down. But with that being said, guys, we're going to take our commercial break on the show today, and we're going to come back, and we're going to give our thoughts on the Joe Kelly situation, the suspension for him, our thoughts on the coronavirus shutting down some of these teams, how we think it's going to affect just the league in general, if it's going to halt anything, and we're going to go into the World Series betting odds, and Treigh will give his opinions on who he thinks best to bet on for this World Series format. So we'll be right back here on the Full Count MLB podcast, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award, 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best Treigh and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carmine'spizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code Armchair at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario. J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride in providing elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel great about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they connect with their customers to simplify the process to make their life easier and to make their homes beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 905-358-3299 J&L Flooring. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is located on the top of Clifton Hill and just a 5-minute walk from the majestic Niagara Falls. It is conveniently nestled in the heart of the tourist district. A family-owned and operated business, the Spicy Olive opened its doors in May of 2003 and has since been established as an authentic and unique Italian restaurant and bar. Its rustic ambiance and time-worn finishing provide a warm and inviting dining experience. Offering an array of delicious dishes, they specialize in authentic Italian cuisine, homemade sauces, fresh ingredients, and consistently providing a strong foundation on which they build their menu. As night falls, the Spicy Olive shifts to a lively lounge where drinks and live music come together to make a perfect evening. For more than 15 years, they have provided not only for their dedicated locals, but their customers from all over the world with authentic Italian food and great live entertainment. Open daily 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for dinner and till 2 a.m. for drinks. Check out their new menu and book reservations on their website at Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, it's with an E at the end, .com, or call 905-371-2323 for reservations as well. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second segment of our Full Count MLB podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Treigh and Cappy back with you here. And Treigh, let's quickly talk about some of the trending topics in the MLB as of late here. Obviously, we have the news about the coronavirus shutting down some of these major league teams and shutting down some of these series that has been going on. So what are your thoughts on that? Just obviously the Phillies have been shut down, the Marlins, now the Cardinals and Brewers have now been shut down. Their game has been postponed. So what do you think of all these series and them continuing to be postponed? And do you think that there's really a realistic option of the MLB finishing this regular season on time, if not only games but full series continue to be suspended and these teams continue to be shut down for weeks and periods of time here?
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. I really don't know what's going to happen. I guess we're going to have to wait and see kind of what plays out with this Marlins team moving forward. I believe they had something like 13 or 14 total that were infected. That's including staffers. I think it was around like 10 players though. But you're going to be hard to field a team with losing 10 MLB starters. You can't just call up 10 AAA guys and expect them to fill that roster. Manfred even said that he doesn't want to affect the integrity of play, I think is what he said, something along those lines, or the integrity of competition with calling these guys up for an extended period of time. So I think it'll be interesting. You'll kind of have to use the Marlins as a case study to see how things are going to play out. I just don't think that you can keep canceling series for every one or two people that get it. The Marlins, I understand, they had pretty much their entire team that contracted COVID. But I think the Cardinals, they had like 2 people, and now they've canceled their games tomorrow, and I think moving forward a couple games. So I don't know. I think it's kind of just a wait and see at this point to see how they do with the Marlins. But if you're just going to keep canceling games over every single person that gets this virus, I just don't see how we're going to be able to get through the 60-game season.
Yeah, it just seems like the MLB, and we talked about it in the first segment, just the way they went about it. I don't know if it was a winning formula from the beginning with all the teams traveling. I think that was a given that some of these players were going to contract it without having hub cities like the NHL and the NBA have had, and chose to go that route. I just don't know if, like we were saying, it's just funny. Like, is the baseball season going to end in December if this continues on, or is the season just going to be shut down? Like, at what point do you just kind of have to say, if teams are going to keep getting shut down, at what point do they just have to cancel the season altogether?
Yeah, I mean, that seems like it seems inevitable, especially from a pessimistic standpoint or point of view, that the season will ultimately get canceled. I don't want that to happen. I don't think anybody wants that to happen. But if they're just going to go about just canceling games left and right for every single person that gets this virus, it just seems like there's nothing else to do. There should have been a better plan in place for situations like this from the beginning, because we knew that people were going to get it. It's how you react, or in other words, don't overreact in situations like this that are going to determine how the season will progress.
And like we were mentioning about the seven inning games that the MLB has passed for doubleheaders going forward here to try to get series over in a 1 or 2 day span instead of 3 or 4 day span. Treigh, I know as a traditionalist baseball fan, you're not really into this 7 inning game situation here, but because of just the season being a gimmick as itself with the 60-game regular season and the extended playoff teams and the format and everything, are you a little bit more okay with it just in this year? It's going to have an asterisk about it no matter what, kind of like the Astros a few years ago, but are you okay with just all the changes that have been happening in baseball this year to accommodate this shortened season to even have a chance at finishing? Are you okay with these changes that Major League Baseball are making to basically all aspects of the game?
Well, there are some that I like, and then there's some that I don't. Like, for example, I touched on in the first segment about the extended playoffs. I really like adding the 6 additional teams to the playoffs this year. But as far as the 7-inning doubleheaders, I absolutely hate it. I despise this rule. For me, it takes away from the integrity of the games, using Rob Manfred wordism. 7 innings is not a full baseball game. An average starter goes 6 to 7 innings a game. Then that basically takes away any aspect of trying to get to the other team's bullpen, unless you're able to knock them out early after like 4 or 5 innings, which, if you're going against an elite starter, that seems unlikely. It takes away from what a baseball game is supposed to be, in my opinion. 7 innings is not enough time for a team to fully get into the other team's bullpen. And I guess that's my biggest thing is, there are several teams, especially the Braves being one of them, that they play better when they're in the other team's bullpen, and they don't start hitting until the 7th inning. I saw that nonstop last year with last year's Braves team. I believe they led the league in wins coming in their last at bat, which happens in the 8th or 9th inning, depending on if you're the home or the away team. It'll be interesting, I guess, to say the least. But honestly, just what is the difference between playing 14 innings and playing 18 innings? It's 4 innings of baseball. If they're going to get the virus, I don't think playing 4 less innings is really going to make that big a difference one way or the other.
I don't think it makes a difference for the batters and the position players. I think they're trying to preserve the pitchers just for the fact that they're pitching a lot more in a shortened period of time, so that they're trying to give the pitchers the benefit of the doubt here, which, again, the pitchers always have an advantage early on in the season. I know I've talked to you about that before, and it just seems like it takes the batters a little bit more time to get up to speed with these pitchers, so it seems like for the first month, the batters kind of aren't as dialed in as they are maybe later in the season. But like you mentioned, I mean, some of the games don't even get going until the 7th inning, or those are when the most exciting things happen in the 8th and 9th inning. So I don't really know if the 7th inning game is the right decision, but I guess for the fact of them trying to save the season and trying to get as many games in a short period of time as possible before this thing possibly gets shut down again, I can see why they're trying to go about it this way. And I'm kind of just in the mindset where I just shrug my shoulders and say, you know what, this whole season's just become a gimmick anyway, so I really, like, what else can they just pile on us that we'll get another week or two that we didn't expect to happen in a traditional MLB baseball game?
Right, and in a way, I guess you're right that this whole season is pretty much just one giant gimmick, and it'll be interesting to see how much weight these whoever does win the championship, how much weight it'll hold at the in the history books. It'll hold more than the Astros in 2017, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, if the Astros win it again, I can't wait to hear them gloat about that one. But moving on here with the Astros, Treigh, we have the Joe Kelly situation. Obviously, he was suspended for 8 games because of the whole... Let me give you a little bit of context from that situation if you weren't aware. Obviously, the Astros played the LA Dodgers in the World Series a few years back. The Astros ended up winning that World Series, and it came out that it ended up being because of their cheating with the garbage cans and the added cameras and everything like that. So the Dodgers kind of felt like they were robbed of a World Series. A lot of their players were very outspoken about it. Cody Bellinger came out and said that they robbed us of a World Series. The Astros have been basically, had no remorse through the whole situation. They don't really believe that they did anything wrong. And because baseball basically giving them a slap on the wrist as far as the players go, I think a lot of these teams are taking this matter into their own hands and now going after the Astros with throwing near them, throwing at them, or just having these type of antics with taunting and things like that when they do strike them out. So Joe Kelly, he threw at Alex Bregman at a 3-0 count. People thought that he threw at Alex Bregman on a 3-0 count, missed him. Obviously, they weren't too pleased with that. He ended up striking out Carlos Correa. I called him Alex Correa before. It's actually Carlos Correa, thank you. But Carlos Correa, Joe Kelly struck him out and kind of looked at him and made a face at him, which ended up having both benches clear, and basically both organizations, their problems had just escalated at that point. The Astros weren't happy about it. And Joe Kelly suspended for 8 games. And in a shortened 60-game season, Treigh, that's pretty huge for a pitcher to be suspended for 8 games. And in a regular 162-game season in the MLB, it wouldn't be that bad. But, I mean, basically 60 games, 8 games out of that, I think that's a lot for a guy that basically was just voicing his displeasure at the MLB not taking action against this organization.
Yeah, this suspension is an absolute joke. I've said it time and time again. I think Rob Manfred is the worst commissioner in all of professional sports, and this is another reason that you can just add to that list. Kelly, for one, he didn't even hit Bregman with the pitch. I mean, it went behind him. And then, just chirping at Correa after he struck him out and, basically calling him a whiny B-word for his antics dating all the way back to the initial spring training. Like you said, just not showing any remorse for what they did. It's an absolute joke. Instead of punishing the people that cheated, you punish the people that get mad at the other team for cheating. They're doing everything they can to protect the Astros, and it'll come back to bite them, because I don't think this will be the last time we see something like this happen, especially out there in the West. Since they're only playing teams in the West, you're going to see this a lot more, because these are their divisional opponents, and they're going to match up with the Dodgers again this season if we make it that far. It's just crazy to me that they could really go out there and suspend Joe Kelly for 8 games and then do nothing to the Altuves or the Bregmans or Correas that actually cheated, and did so and won a World Series. But aside from that, I do think Joe Kelly is now my favorite non-Brave player in the MLB.
I think he's gained a lot of fans on Twitter. A lot of retired players and current players coming to his aid with free Joe Kelly hashtags and things like that. But I just don't understand why the Astros continue to be basically sheltered in this situation. They should expect this kind of stuff to happen to them all year, regardless of if they had remorse or not. And obviously their owner, Jim Crane, came out today and said that it was Rob Manfred's decision not to suspend players, not mine. So I don't think that he was going to go out and suspend his own players. I think that's a complete bogus statement by the Astros owner, but I'm not surprised with how he has taken this whole situation and how their entire organization has kind of just turned away from everything wrong that they have done and not really lived up and owned up to their mistakes here.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is, like what you said, they just haven't shown remorse for what they did. It'd be one thing if they came out and admitted it and owned up to the fact that, yeah, we used the trash cans and the technology to our advantage, and we used it to win a World Series. There might be some people that might show a little more sympathy with that just because they owned up, they took it like a man and showed the world that they were wrong for what they did. But the fact that they're going out there saying, "Oh no, we're good. With that World Series is legitimate," it just pisses off the fans and the players even more.
Yeah, and like you said, that great Dodgers Astros Game 6 from a few years back in the World Series has just kind of been tainted as one of the great games to ever have been played.
Yeah, that game was incredible, and now when you go back and watch it, you can't watch it the same way that you did before. That's one of the before this whole investigation and everything came out, honestly, that was probably the greatest single baseball game I've ever watched. And now you can't, it doesn't hold up anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely up there with that Cubs and Cleveland Indians World Series game from a few years back as well. That was also a great one. But yeah, we'll have to see what goes on with the Astros moving forward here. But to me, they deserve everything that they get this year, and I'm sure a lot of baseball fans agree with that. So. Moving on here to the World Series odds trail. Let's quickly go over this once again here. This is from thelines.com. And again, this is probably before the season started, but again, we are recording this 2 weeks into the season. So again, take it with a grain of salt. Let's quickly just run through bottom through top here. We got Seattle at the far worst with plus 50,000. Then you got Detroit, Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City, San Francisco, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Texas, Arizona, San Diego, Boston, Milwaukee, the LA Angels, Oakland, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago White Sox, St. Louis Cardinals, Philadelphia Phillies, Chicago Cubs, New York Mets, Washington Nationals, Tampa Bay Rays, Minnesota Twins, Atlanta Braves, Houston Astros, New York Yankees, and Los Angeles Dodgers from 32 to 1 here, Treigh. What are you looking at as far as some of these teams that stick out to you here at the top or in the bottom or middle area that kind of stick out to you that might be worth taking a shot at, maybe somebody that's too high or somebody that's too low?
Well, I just want to go out first off and say I think Dodgers being with the best odds is probably right. In the article I wrote, I did have the Dodgers winning the World Series. So I like the Dodgers there at plus 375. As far as teams that are too high, probably before the season, this is probably where I'd have Atlanta. But now 2 weeks in, I'd definitely drop them some. Their starting pitching is just too much of a black hole. Don't know really too much about after their top two starters, Mike Soroka and Max Fried. They have a bullpen arm slated as the number 3 guy, somebody who's already been DFA'd as their number 4, and then a rookie, Kyle Wright, as their number 5. I follow the team, a lot. Pretty much everything they do, I see, and I just don't see this team as being the 4th best team in baseball right now. That being said, a team that I think might be a good flyer to take would be San Diego. They're sitting down at plus 4,500. They're off to a great start. They have a lot of young talent on that team. They got some good pitching, And maybe before the expanded playoffs, I wouldn't have them I wouldn't have them making it to the postseason. But with the 16-team format now, they're definitely going to get in.
Yeah, and you look at teams like even lower than them. Colorado's off to a good start at plus 12,050, and then you look at even the Toronto Blue Jays at plus 8,000. They have an opportunity to sneak in here if their young core of talented players there continue to grow and they get some production out of them as well. They could be a nice sleeper team in the AL East with the extended playoffs. So they're at plus 8,000, and even going up the list here, I think the Nationals are a bit low, to be honest with you. I think them at plus 1,900. They're currently sitting in the 8th spot, actually, not the 7th spot, the 8th spot. So I think it's a bit low for the defending World Series champions. I know they lost Anthony Rendon. That's a lot of production there, but especially with these 7-inning games that Treigh has voiced his displeasure at during this podcast, I think with those 3 starters, I think that is the best 1-2-3 starter combo in the league with Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, and Steven Strasburg. If you can get those guys going 6 innings or maybe even the full 7-inning games, it's going to be hard to beat them, especially. You get to their bullpen, it gets a little bit easier. The Yankees were able to get to them after Corbin went out, but I mean, when those starters are in, it's you're struggling to even score 1 or 2 runs against that team. So I think they're going to be another team to be reckoned with, and I would definitely put money on them as where they sit now currently.
Yeah, they're off to a little bit of a slow start, but with that pitching, you gotta be worrisome about them. I think it was in their last game against the Blue Jays, Max Scherzer threw, I think it was something like 115 pitches and went 8 innings without giving a run, without allowing a run. Now you put him in a 7-inning game. He doesn't have to try to worry about going 9 innings or keeping his team in there. If he goes 7 innings, which he does pretty much almost every single start, that team's got a good shot at winning because Scherzer is pretty much unhittable at this point. Yeah. And then like you said, they have probably the best 3-headed monster at the front of the rotation of any team in baseball. That rotation is what single-handedly won. Well, that and Howie Kendrick is what won them the World Series last year. It'll be tough though this year without Rendon. That's a lot of production lost. They've also lost Ryan Zimmerman to he opted out because of the coronavirus. I think they also lost a pitcher to the virus also. So they have lost a little bit of production. But defending World Series champions, they got the experience, they've got the pitching. If the offense can come around, they'll definitely be a team worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely, and I think this format, this 7-inning format, I think helps Washington that much more to probably move up this list. I'm pretty sure that they're probably happy about this, considering that their bullpen is not very strong whatsoever. So if their starters, like you said, can go basically the whole game now, if it's 7 innings, I think they're going to have a great chance at getting back to that spot once again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's quickly take a look at the players that have opted out. Like you mentioned, Ryan Zimmerman from the Nationals, as well as Joe Ross, their right-handed relief pitcher. He was actually in contention to be the Washington's 5th starter, so he's now also opted out. Mike Leake from the Diamondbacks has opted out. Ian Desmond from the Rockies has opted out. David Price, the Dodgers starting pitcher from the Boston Red Sox, he opted out. Tyson Ross from the Giants. Felix Hernandez from the Braves, and also Nick Markakis from the Braves, who has opted back in, Treigh, as we learned yesterday. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because I originally thought that once a player opted out, they can't opt back in. But I guess there's some rules about if you opt out due to health concerns, like you had a health risk issue. I guess that's why when you can't opt back in. Markakis just opted out because I guess he wanted to, and maybe he just misses the sport, or I don't know. Maybe he sees that the Braves are struggling on offense, and he feels like he can help them. Either way, it'll be a welcome addition back on the team. He's another good left-handed bat, really good contact hitter, and that's something that the Braves really need right now.
Michael Kopech from the White Sox has opted out. Jordan Hicks from the Cardinals, and lastly Buster Posey from the Giants, who him and his wife are adopting identical twin girls, so they announced they're holding out as precautionary reasons. Treigh, do you see with what's going on with these positive tests and these teams being shut down, could you see more players possibly, saying that, the risk isn't there, the juice isn't worth the squeeze here in this situation, and would you be shocked at all to see more players starting to opt out because of the way that this thing has gone so far through 2 weeks?
I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. I don't think it will. I think a lot of these guys have already weighed the pros and cons of playing versus not playing. At this point, I think they just want to ride it out. If more players start opting out at this point too, MLB might not have any option but to cancel the season if nobody was going to play. But at this point, I think that everybody, as far as player-wise, is doing everything they can to minimize the risk. They're all wearing masks in the dugout. You see very minimal handshakes and stuff of that nature. I think the players are doing everything that they can in the right way, and I just don't. I think a lot of these guys want to play. They've gone this long without playing. They had the whole hashtag when the negotiations were going on of just tell us when and where. I think these guys want to play, and I just don't see. I personally don't think too many more will choose to opt out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see going forward if we're even going to be able to finish this season, Treigh. But before we wrap up the show today, what are your just general thoughts of baseball being back? I know, like we mentioned, it's kind of a gimmicky season, but what have you thought just from watching baseball? Have you been content or happy with the way that the game has been kind of presented? Are you happy with the quality of play that we're getting out there, considering that these guys have been off for, basically 5 months at this point? Are you content with what we're seeing as far as the on-field product from the Major League Baseball?
Well, for one, I'm just happy that it's back in general. I mean, they could be some of the worst baseball I've ever seen, and at least I still have something to watch, I guess, in that aspect of it. But there is a lot of rust. You see it in a lot of players. I think Christian Yelich is one guy. I think he's, as of yesterday, I think he was like 1 for 27 at the plate. Ronald Acuna is another one, a guy who's supposed to be a superstar, struggling at the plate. So you're going to see a lot of this rust early on. Hopefully it doesn't last too much longer because the game's better when guys like that are playing well. But as far as like the presentation and everything like that goes, I think it's been phenomenal considering the circumstances. The announcers are doing everything they can, calling games remotely if it's an away game. Fox with their digital fans and everything. It's great that it's back. It's just, like you said this whole time, it's gimmicky. You got to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. And just know that it's going to be different this year.
Yeah, but again, as baseball junkies, both of us are just happy to have some sort of baseball back and just something to cling on to for pro sports. I know basketball's coming back, the NHL's coming back, but it's always great to have more baseball in our lives, and we'll have to see how this progresses. Really hope by the next episode that the league is not shut down and we're talking about how big of a disaster this season was, and hopefully these teams can get over these few cases that have happened and stop the spread before it happens, and we can continue on and finish off this baseball season, which we've been craving for basically 5 or 6 months now, wishing that it was, despite all the contract disputes and all that left a sour taste in everybody's mouth, that it would eventually finish off and everybody would kind of get a positive result out of it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for today's first installment of our Full Count MLB podcast for the 2020 MLB season. Hopefully we'll be back for another episode in a few weeks here, talk about some more baseball. Your North American source for podcasting coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the MLB Full Count MLB Podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13 with a Canadian Z. As well, you can follow my co-host Treigh at Treigh Patterson on Twitter. He's always ranting about his Atlanta Braves there and other sports, so please go and follow him as well. A big thank you to all of our great sponsors who help put us on and support the network, keep the show on the air, especially during these unprecedented times with the coronavirus and everything like that. So really appreciate them staying on with us. And finally, to you viewers out there for tuning in and listening along with us for this episode, continue to be safe out there. And once again, this is the Full Count MLB Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans. Enjoy what we got for the baseball season. We'll see you guys next episode.